Good evening, and welcome to our special broadcast. Tonight we delve into a question of significant democratic importance. Should the minimum voting age be reduced to 16? This is a topic that sparks passionate debate, touching upon notions of rights, responsibilities, and the very future of our electorate. Joining us to explore this issue are two distinguished guests. Arguing for the proposition is Liam Chen, a dynamic youth council representative, and arguing against is Dr. Eleanor Vance, an esteemed political scientist. Welcome to you both.
Thank you, Ms. Hayes. I believe lowering the voting age to 16 is not merely a suggestion, but a logical and profoundly beneficial progression for any modern democracy. It's about aligning our democratic principles with the realities of today's youth, their capabilities, and the responsibilities they already shoulder. Firstly, early participation in voting is crucial for fostering lifelong civic engagement. Imagine the impact of integrating the act of voting with ongoing civics education in schools. This synergy would ensure that young people cast their first votes not as an isolated act, but as an informed culmination of their learning, creating a generation of more engaged and knowledgeable citizens from the outset. Secondly, let's consider the alignment of rights and responsibilities. At 16, individuals in many jurisdictions can work full-time, they contribute through taxes, and in some unfortunate circumstances, can even face the adult legal system. If they are deemed responsible enough to contribute to the economy and are held accountable by adult laws, surely they deserve a voice in electing the governments that create these laws and spend their tax contributions. This echoes the historical democratic call of no taxation without representation. It's a matter of fundamental fairness. Finally, we must acknowledge the maturity and information access of modern 16-year-olds. Thanks to digital literacy and the vast resources available online, they are often remarkably well-informed about current events and political issues. They demonstrate a keen understanding of, and a direct stake in, policies that will profoundly shape their future, be it education funding, climate change action, or employment opportunities. To deny them a vote is to silence a crucial perspective on the very issues that will define their lives.
Thank you, Ms. Hayes. While I wholeheartedly agree with Mr. Chen on the importance of encouraging youth participation in civic life, I believe reducing the voting age to 16 presents several valid and serious concerns. These concerns relate to developmental maturity, the depth of life experience necessary for informed political judgment, and potential negative impacts on the integrity of our electoral process. Primarily, we must consider cognitive development. Neuroscience tells us that the brain, particularly the prefrontal cortex responsible for long-term judgment, reasoning, and impulse control, is still undergoing significant development at age 16. This ongoing maturation process can affect the capacity for the kind of complex, nuanced political decision-making that voting requires, especially when faced with sophisticated policy choices and their far-reaching consequences. Secondly, there's the question of life experience. While 16-year-olds may be informed, information alone does not equate to wisdom or the grounded perspective that often comes from navigating adult responsibilities independently. Limited first-hand experience with, for example, managing personal finances long-term, navigating the complexities of the housing market, or understanding the intricacies of employment contracts can mean political views are less anchored in practical realities. This isn't a criticism of young people, but an acknowledgement of the different stages of life. Finally, there is the concern about vulnerability to undue influence. While young people are increasingly media savvy, the developmental stage of 16 can also mean a greater susceptibility to simplistic political messaging, peer pressure, or even the influence of adults in their immediate environment. Ensuring that votes are cast with adequate critical discernment and independence is paramount to a healthy democracy. Therefore, maintaining the current voting age is a prudent measure to safeguard these aspects of our electoral system.
Thank you both for those comprehensive opening statements. Liam, Dr. Vance highlighted concerns about cognitive maturity at 16. How do you address the argument that 16-year-olds may not be fully equipped developmentally for the complex decision of voting?
That's a valid point to raise, Ms. Hayes, and I acknowledge that cognitive development is an ongoing process. However, ongoing development does not equate to an incapacity for informed and responsible voting. Maturity is not a fixed line crossed at 18. It's a spectrum, and it varies significantly among individuals at all ages, including among current 18, 19, or even 30-year-old voters. Furthermore, robust civics education, which we advocate for alongside lowering the voting age, is specifically designed to develop the critical thinking skills necessary for democratic participation. We trust 16-year-olds with the responsibility to drive a car, to consent to medical treatment in some cases, and to work. These also require judgment and an understanding of consequences. Are we to say they can handle these, but not thoughtfully consider who should represent them?
Dr. Vance, Liam suggests civic education can bridge this developmental gap, and that 16-year-olds already manage other significant responsibilities. What is your perspective on this?
Civic education is undoubtedly beneficial, and I commend efforts to enhance it. However, while it can impart knowledge and teach critical analysis, it cannot entirely replicate or replace the nuanced judgment that often develops through broader lived experience and fully matured reasoning capabilities. There is a distinction to be made between learned skills, such as driving, which involves applying rules and developing motor coordination, and the multifaceted judgment required for voting on complex socio-economic policies. Driving skills are also tested. Voting readiness is assumed based on age. Furthermore, we should be cautious about lowering established standards for such a fundamental civic duty based on the argument that some adults may also vote with limited information or maturity. The goal should be to elevate the quality of decision-making across the electorate, not to potentially dilute it by including a demographic that, on average, is still in a significant phase of cognitive and experiential development.
Dr. Vance, moving on, you spoke earlier about the lack of life experience among 16-year-olds. Could you elaborate on why this is particularly critical for the act of voting, even when considering issues like climate change, where young people clearly have a significant and direct stake in the future outcomes?
Certainly. While young people's passion on issues like climate change is undeniable and valuable, effective political decision-making requires more than just acknowledging a problem or having a vested interest. It requires an understanding of the immense economic and policy complexities involved in crafting viable solutions, and, importantly, an appreciation for the often difficult trade-offs that these solutions entail. For instance, how do we balance environmental protection with economic stability, job creation, or the varying impacts on different socioeconomic groups? These considerations often become clearer and more tangible through more extensive life experience. Consider policies related to taxation, social security, or healthcare funding. These are areas where first-hand experience of earning, saving, and navigating the system often provides a crucial layer of understanding that complements academic knowledge.
Liam, Dr. Vance suggests that while young people bring passion and a clear stake in the future, they may lack the broad experiential basis to assess pragmatic, complex policy solutions. How can 16-year-olds contribute effectively to such nuanced policy decisions if that is the case?
I would argue that what some perceive as a lack of experience can also be seen as a source of strength. Young people often bring fresh perspectives, unburdened by entrenched political biases or cynicism that can sometimes cloud judgment. They possess a strong innate sense of justice and fairness, which are vital components of good policymaking. Furthermore, their ability to research, learn, and critically analyze information, especially in the digital age, should not be underestimated. They can and do understand complex issues deeply. A truly representative democracy should not only accommodate but actively seek out their unique and valid perspectives, especially on long-term issues. Their input isn't just about passion. It's about a different, equally valid lens through which to view societal challenges and potential solutions. In closing, I urge us to embrace a more inclusive and forward-looking vision of democracy. The arguments for lowering the voting age to 16 are rooted in principles of fairness, representation, and the undeniable positive impact of early civic engagement. We've discussed how 16-year-olds are already shouldering significant responsibilities, from contributing to the economy through work and taxes, to being subject to adult laws. It is only just that they have a voice in shaping those laws. Concerns about maturity, while understandable, often overlook the spectrum of development and the capacity of young people today, who are more informed and connected than any generation before them. Coupled with robust civics education, they are more than capable of making considered choices. Indeed, evidence from countries like Austria and Scotland, where 16-year-olds can vote, shows increased turnout and thoughtful participation among this demographic, often revitalizing the democratic process. These young citizens have demonstrated that they take this responsibility seriously. Lowering the voting age is not a radical leap. It's an investment in a more engaged citizenry and a stronger democracy. Let us trust our youth, empower them, and allow them to help shape the future they will inherit. Their perspective is not just valuable, it is essential.
In concluding, my position remains that we must prioritize safeguarding the integrity and quality of the vote by ensuring decisions are based on adequate developmental maturity and sufficient breadth of life experience. While I deeply respect the passion and potential of our young people, the arguments against lowering the voting age to 16 are substantial. These revolve around crucial factors of cognitive development, which is still incomplete at 16, limiting the capacity for fully nuanced long-term judgment. Furthermore, the general lack of broad life experience, navigating independent finances, long-term employment, and the complex realities of adult commitments means their perspectives, while valid, may not yet be fully grounded for electoral choices with far-reaching societal consequences. There's also the continued concern about susceptibility to external influences before critical discernment is fully honed. Acknowledging the value of youth engagement is paramount, and there are numerous effective channels for those under 18 to make their voices heard. These include youth advisory councils, active participation in advocacy groups, and engagement with community projects, all of which can be incredibly impactful without altering the electorate itself. We should be cautious about fundamentally altering the electorate without compelling, unequivocal evidence that the benefits truly outweigh the potential risks to the deliberative quality of our democracy. Maintaining the voting age at 18 is not about distrusting young people. It is about upholding a carefully considered standard for a profound civic duty, one that requires a certain level of developed capacity and experiential understanding.
Thank you both, Liam Chen and Dr. Eleanor Vance, for your articulate, passionate, and deeply thoughtful contributions to this important debate tonight. We've heard compelling arguments on both sides, centering on the balance between youthful capability and rights versus the considerations of developmental readiness and accumulated life experience. It's clear there are many facets to this issue, and we hope this discussion has provided our audience with ample food for thought. Thank you for joining us this evening. Good night.